So, good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for this important discussion named How is Poland contributing to the investigation of international crimes committed by Russia in Ukraine. During this event, we will discuss war crimes, investigation initiated by Poland under the principle of universal jurisdiction, the possibilities of holding perpetrators accountable in Polish courts, and at the international level. Also, we will discuss the Polish efforts towards establishing a special tribunal for the crime of aggression. Our speakers will explain how Poland contributes to the fight for justice for Ukraine, and we'll answer some questions from the audience as well. We are meeting here at a very difficult time. The need for international solidarity and justice is greater than ever. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has resulted in thousands of serious violations of international law. Many of these crimes fall within the scope of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and potentially genocide. Poland, on the other hand, has played a notable role in responding to these atrocities, both through legal mechanisms and political support. So today we will explore how this response is evolving right now and what it tells us about the possibilities of justice in times of war. So let me briefly introduce our speakers today. So Professor Hanna Kuczyńska. Hanna is a professor at the Institute of Law Studies of the Polish Academy of Sciences in Warsaw. She also serves as a president of Polish group of the International Association of Criminal Law. Her expertise lies in international criminal law and cooperation between jurisdictions. Am I correct? Yep. That's great. Also with us, Professor Agnieszka Bieńczyk-Missala. Yeah, that's great. I'm not butchering your surname. She's a professor at political science and researcher at the Faculty of Political Science and International Studies at the University of Warsaw. She focuses on transitional justice, foreign policy, and human rights. So our format of the discussion today will include two talks. So from both of our speakers, 15 to 20 minutes. And then we will have a Q&A session with the audience and myself. The entire event will last approximately 60 minutes. So let us begin with Hanna. The floor is yours. You can start. Thank you very much.
But it should be working. Okay, I think it's working. Thank you very much, Timothy, and for your kind invitation, bringing us here, all your efforts that you've made for us to be so that it's possible for us to be here. And yes, I did change the title of the presentation from contributing into investigating, because there is. I insist that every state has its own obligation under international law to investigate international crimes committed by Russia in Ukraine. So this is our own obligation. We don't have to contribute to something, because maybe contribute to the ending impunity or contribute to international order, but this is our own obligation, and we have to stress it in every discussion, that we are not helping Ukraine or helping the ICC, because we have to do it with our own hands, prosecute these crimes, so far as it is possible in accordance with our jurisdiction and our organizational capacity. And I have a lot of slides. Is there a clock here somewhere?
I will manage today.
Yeah, okay. Because there is a lot of slides, a lot of issues that can be discussed, but I don't want to discuss everything in much detail. So some slides are just informative so that you could have a general idea what's going on, and maybe you can ask questions later. Okay. So, well, this is the main investigation in Poland into crimes committed in Ukraine. All these crimes, all the issues of these crimes are centralized in the National Prosecutor's Office in Warsaw in the frames of one investigation. And this investigation and these prosecutors are also part of the GIT, so Joint Investigation Team, coordinated by Eurojust, and where other member states also joined. And this investigation was initiated on the 28th of February 22. There is just one number of the case given on the slide. And in this very short decision, the scope of this investigation was given. So the scope includes the crime of aggression and war crimes. And several legal provisions are mentioned, and this legal provision concern war crimes as provided by the Polish Criminal Code. But this scope, as it was explained, is flexible. So by choosing these two types of crimes, the prosecutors didn't close the investigations to crime against humanity or genocide. That's their opinion, because they can change qualification of legal acts. What is important is the material scope, so the crimes committed in Ukraine, which may turn into crimes against humanity. So this investigation is taking place, and what should happen next with this investigation? We are in a kind of I don't want to say deadlock, but we have to do something with this investigation. Either issue Polish arrest warrants or transfer proceedings to the ICC or to the Ukrainian authorities. But the prosecution was started on the basis of the protective principle, not universal jurisdiction. Protective principle, so the crimes were considered to be committed against the security of Poland. So that's very interesting. That's stated in this decision that the prosecutor issued. So that's what we are doing right now. We are trying to convince people responsible for this that Poland should issue their own arrest warrants against very precise persons, Russian functionaries responsible for the crimes, because as the newspapers mentioned, because everything I can speak about today was published. So there are already perpetrators who are indicated by the evidence, but it's not easy to conduct this investigation. On the one hand, there have been a lot of witnesses interviewed. There is again 10 missing. That should be 3,000 witnesses. I thought I corrected it. But there is no specialized prosecutors unit, and only 3 Polish prosecutors conduct this case, but also other cases like regular cases that they have in their scope of work. So they are dealing with maybe not drunken driving, but drug trafficking, for instance, and that's their main area of interest. So they can't commit totally to investigation of incidents, but you can see that we are active, both NGOs and academics. We are active. We are still trying to get to the press with the information about Poland investigating the crimes. We are trying to show to the society how important it is, and how important it is for the taxpayers to pay money for this investigation. So we are working also on the sociological side of this investigation, that this is not contributing to something. This is important for us because we want the perpetrators to be punished. It's important for us, for the whole international society. these are not some foreign perpetrators, because their crimes are against the whole international community. That's this type of crimes, that's what they are. And also tomorrow is the anniversary, and I can see that in Poland a lot of interviews are demanded, and journalists are getting more and more interested into this topic. They are even starting to distinguish between the ICC and the ICJ, which is a huge success. What problems we have in Poland? No previous experience. That's the first investigation into core crimes after the time of World War II, and after only one investigation dealing with a case in Afghanistan that turned out not to be into core crimes at all, because the war crimes were several persons were charged with war crimes, but in the end they were convicted for failure to execute an order properly. That's not a war crime. The second problem is that we have no in absentia trials, so the perpetrator has to be present to issue an indictment to the court. That's a very short version. There will be more details on the next slide. So we also don't have in absentia indictments. And we have problems with our definition of universal jurisdiction. But I still insist that arrest warrants should be issued like every day. So the problems. This is the assumption that we are working on, both NGOs and academics, that prosecution of these crimes is not an option but an international obligation. This is not only legally required but also morally justified. It is very important for the Polish security. Although it is very complicated in this moment, but we can't say that it's impossible. There are just several problems that we have to solve. So first, the methodology of conducting such an investigation. We should take example from the Ukrainian prosecutors who are dealing daily with such cases, and there are academics working on the methodology that should be adopted by the prosecutors in Poland. We are still stressing that a specialized permanent organizational units should be established in Poland. Third is unconditional universal jurisdiction. So we should be able to prosecute core crimes even if the perpetrator is not in Poland. This is very important because a lot of Russians and Belarusians are coming to Poland for holidays or to change planes, like in Finland, and or traveling by car, or they have. So they can appear in Poland someday, and we should have an arrest warrant ready, waiting for them. And right now they are just traveling freely. So arrest warrants should be issued in absentia in order to request extradition or to stop this person. And we should also digitalize investigations and use electronic evidence more often, like in Ukraine. And we are still working on the political will on the part of the Polish government. And there are more detailed problems. So I'm not going to speak in details. So there are problems that must be solved when it comes to the special unit in the prosecutor's office. The problems with universal jurisdiction, because the provision that we have right now is not clear. This is a decision of the court in Warsaw that says that we can have unconditional universal jurisdiction, but at the same time, the Codification Commission of Criminal Law is conducting works to change this provision into being clear, because right now it's unclear. So this is the proposal of the Commission, and we are working on the ministry to send this proposal to the Parliament. Another problem is to convince important persons that issuing domestic arrest warrants matters, and that we should do it right now. The discussion how it was proposed in the concept paper, should also go into the most effective mechanism of cooperation. And here, here the GIT is the most effective mechanism. So we can also speak about GIT and why the agreement between Poland and Ukraine is not effective when we have GIT. Very specific questions were asked about extradition of suspects. So we can also clarify it in the discussion. When extradition is possible from Poland, and there are some provisions for that. And the last question, I think, regarded in absentia trials and the recognition in Poland if somebody was convicted in Ukraine. So this is also, the last question was about the role of civil society.
Actually, you have time right now, so you can contribute to, I would say, better to talk about the in absentia cases, because in Ukraine, right now the situation is that most cases are being held in absentia. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to know how does it work in Poland. Mm-hmm. So in Poland there is no in absentia cases, and also like, is it a possibility for changes, or maybe like any recent examples, maybe in international, mm-hmm. like any other countries maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in absentia. So if we have a perpetrator, the prosecutor wants to conduct investigation against this specific perpetrator, there is a necessity to issue a specific decision, presentation of charges, so that the person becomes a suspect. And for this activity, the perpetrator, the suspect, must be present. So, if the person is not present, it's not possible to present charges. And without this activity, it's not possible to go any further with the trial, with the criminal proceedings. So that's the final moment where we can go without the suspect. And then if the suspect is not present, the prosecutor goes to the court, asks the court to issue an arrest warrant. Then on the basis of the arrest warrant, it's possible to start international searches, to issue the European arrest warrant, to issue a request for an extradition. So this arrest warrant issued by the court is the base to catch the perpetrator wherever he or she appears, with the extradition request as a red note in Interpol or European arrest warrant transferred across member states of the European Union. So that's the moment where we have to stop and suspend the investigation, waiting for the suspect to be apprehended. And even during trial, when it comes to core crimes, these are the most serious crimes, and in the Polish procedure, it's obligatory to present the charges in the court, also in person, for such serious crimes. Over 3 years of imprisonment, then the accused must be present in the court. And there is no discussion about changing this, because we can't do everything at once. We can discuss later changing the procedure, but only for the sake of international crimes, not totally in the procedure. When it comes to recognition of such judgments, if they are issued in Ukraine, we have no specific provisions for that, because we are bound by the standard of the European Union and of the the Article 6 of the Convention of Human Rights. In the European Union, there is a framework decision that states what conditions must be fulfilled for a trial in absentia. So the person must be officially informed and must resign very clearly with full understanding of what he's doing, must resign from his absence or her absence in the court. But this is this condition of official notification of of the fact that a trial is taking place. But it's still in absentia trial, but trial. We still don't solve with this European Union law the problem of presentation of charges which must be in person. And the second standard is the standard of Article 6 and the jurisprudence of the court. So as long as the standard of European courts, of Ukrainian courts is in accordance with the standard of Article 6, there is no problem with recognition such judgments. And I checked also in the bounding treaties, the Convention on the Transfer of the Sentenced Persons, the Council of Europe Convention, doesn't say anything about in absentia trials, and that's our, we are both parties, and that's the basic instrument for cooperation concerning transfer of sentenced persons between Poland and Ukraine. And I think I also checked, no. I checked the agreement between Poland and Ukraine from 1993. There is also no provision that would say that it's impossible. So our courts will have to decide on the basis of the standard from the convention. But this is a very specific question, and actually nobody tried to answer this question yet, and we have no jurisprudence. So that's my personal academic opinion, that it's possible with these standards in mind. And we have also the possibility to open the case again if the suspect appears.
Yeah, actually, I will ask you sometime later in regard of the extradition also, because it's really interesting question as well. But now I'm ready to move on to our next speaker. Hanna, do we have the presentation? Yeah, yes. That's great. So Hanna, I believe you will be focused more on the national level developments and bilateral cooperation and more political side of things. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be in Kiev with you. I'm sorry, Hanna, for contributing. I should change it. You explain me why. But I'm going to talk about international activity of Poland. That's why maybe contributing is not the worst word. I would like to start with that the most important question that in Poland there is a political consensus that Russian crimes in Ukraine should be prosecuted. There are no, important politicians, political parties which would be against. That's why since the very beginning Poland was a part of every international initiative. It hasn't changed, and there is no such a perspective. But I have to say that when I analyze, for example, high-level Polish-Ukrainian meetings, there is no discussion on this topic. It's not because it is not a priority, I believe. It's just because we agree on the whole idea, and on, let's say, lower working level, we deal with the question. I'm sure that some of you had the opportunity to hear our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radosław Sikorski, who several times during Security Council's meetings reacted to Russian diplomats' lies about Ukrainian crimes, etc., in a very positive, good way, constructive way. And last week in Poland there was a meeting of all Polish ambassadors all over the world, and I participated in the panel devoted to Polish engagement in the United Nations and multilateral platforms, organizations. And one of the problems raised was what we could do, what we can do in the context of crimes, Russian crimes in Ukraine and the war and the aggression. And the most important question which was identified was, of course, Russian disinformation, Russian propaganda, which is practiced by diplomats, but also in the United Nations structures and institutions, bodies. So what Polish diplomats do and are going to do, they of course react when Russian diplomats accuse, for example, Ukraine of fascism, Nazism, etc., etc. So the idea is just to react, to counteract Russian disinformation propaganda. Since the very beginning, Poland also was co-sponsor, active supporter of UN resolutions, especially in the General Assembly and Human Rights Council. And on the one hand, those resolutions are not maybe legally binding as treaties, conventions, or Security Council decisions, but for sure we need to appreciate them because they legitimize somehow regional organizations' activity and establish, who is aggressor, who is responsible for what's going on. Poland is going to support, of course, all special mechanisms established by the UN Human Rights Council. I mean investigative mission, but also special reporters for human rights violations in Russia and Ukraine. We believe that it's also important, to push those initiatives which shows standards in Russia and Belarus in the context of the war. And Poland also last year organized some significant side events in the United Nations. And one of the most, let's say, emotional event was an exhibition of drawings of Polish and Ukrainian children concerning their perception of wars. After the Second World War, Polish children were asked at some schools to draw their memories from wars, from the Second World War. And the idea was to show those Polish drawings and contemporary Ukrainian children drawings, and it really worked. Those who visited the exhibition, could somehow feel the relationship with the situation. Another question is a new, not maybe very new initiative of the treaty concerning crimes against humanity. So as you know, in the United Nations, there is, the procedure has been started, of course, many years ago to adopt the treaty, which could be ratified by states. And the idea is especially that, for example, it's very difficult, as we know, to punish somebody for genocide crimes. So we believe that ratification of the treaty, future treaty on crimes against humanity could make the situation easier. And during last year events and discussions around the treaty, Poland raised the question of children. On the one hand, we can say that Poland has some tradition because Poland was the initiator of the Child's Rights Convention, but also Polish Undersecretary of State, as you can see here, referred to Ukrainian situation and Russian forced and displacement of Ukrainian children. So the idea is to include in the treaty the problem. Poland and International Criminal Court. So what has changed during last year, Poland signed the agreement with ICC concerning the option to imprison those who would be punished by ICC. So we can imagine that in the future, President Putin could be located in Poland because there is at least legal ground for this. And Poland is also quite active when we talk about Kampala amendments. In July, there was a meeting by parties to the statute. And Polish representatives, as you can see here, Poland support to removing restrictions which concern the court's jurisdiction over the crime of aggression. So, as you know, the idea is to provide amendments to avoid the situation that Security Council, for example, can stop the proceeding, but also the idea is to have the situation that it's enough that only one party to the war ratified the statute amendments, etc., etc. And Polish representative also referred to the situation of ICC, to US sanctions, which of course make the situation quite hard, and also referred to court's reputation. It was quite open statement. On the other hand, I have to mention also the question of President Netanyahu and the Polish government statement of January 2025, because it was something what in a negative way influenced Polish image and Polish relation to ICC. And generally speaking, when one talks with different diplomats and experts, it seems that the lack of proper reaction or more reluctant reaction of the European Union towards Gaza Strip atrocities creates the situation that at least states from, let's say, global south, they say about European double standards, hypocrisy. So it's not something what helps, right, to prosecute Russian crimes in Ukraine. So in January 2025 in Poland, there was anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz camp. And as you know, President Netanyahu is in the same situation as President Putin when we talk about ICC. The arrest warrant has been issued. But in Poland, unfortunately, started the discussion what would happen in case President Netanyahu visits Poland. So the Polish government, to be honest, I don't understand this statement, but there was no really need to do it. But maybe there was a kind of pressure from, I don't know, which party, state party, I have no idea. But this kind of statement was adopted that Jewish leaders of Israel who would take part in those commemorations, important commemorations, just can do it safely. They safely can participate. So it's a very vague statement, nothing concrete, but as far as I know, it was not a good one for Polish credibility, of course. Another question, important question, which we should raise in the perspective of the last month, was Polish presidency of the Council of the European Union. I think it's really important that among Polish priorities, accountability for crimes committed in Ukraine was included. And really a lot of discussions organized by Poland touched this problem. So, of course, for example, the question of Special Tribunal for the crime of aggression or the register of damage are, let's say, organized, operated by the Council of Europe, but most of discussions, there is cooperation between the Council of Europe and the European Union, and a lot of discussion took place in the framework of the Justice and Home Affairs Council. So those questions were discussed. Special Tribunal for the crime of aggression had ended with signing the agreement between Ukraine and the Council of Europe. And also one of the most important questions right now is the foundation of the Council, which would somehow, would follow the register of damage. So thousands of claims have been submitted to the register of damage. There is also our colleague, a member of the board So I believe it's also quite important question for Poland. And one of the most important events was the seminar from Nuremberg to The Hague. So in the framework of Polish presidency, Poland organized 80 different events. One of them was, it was the third anniversary of the massacre in Bucha. Also, Aleksandra Matwijczuk took part in it, Philip Sanz, as you can see. But it was a good opportunity to discuss where we are now. And I wanted to finish with more casual picture. So it's from the meeting of our Minister of Justice, Adam Bodnar, and new ambassador of Ukraine to Poland, Wasyl Bodnar. Maybe it's like a proof of brotherhood between Poland and Ukraine. But it also shows that right now a Minister of Justice is the most engaged politician, to be honest, to push the question forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for your contribution. It's really interesting, and also I would like to continue the discussion in regard of International Tribunal for the crime of aggression. So just more recently, yesterday on July 14, our president signed the agreement, ratified the agreement. I think it's a question for both of you. What's your opinion on the perspectives of this tribunal? Some of like Maya Kars says that first decision is expected by 2026. Is it realistic in such approach? Maybe what a like main goal of this could be, or maybe like what are the perspectives in general? So maybe you can contribute to this one.
To be honest, I don't know if in 2026 any decisions will be possible. It's just the beginning, to be honest. So we do have quite complicated statute. And yesterday we discussed in our train the question of the statute, and Hanna said that unfortunately the tribunal wouldn't prosecute people who have immunity, right? So the way to punish, to prosecute those politicians with immunities won't be possible. So we can expect that next month's organizational questions will have to be established. The question of funds, the question of structures, procedures. So I really don't know if in 2026 decisions, satisfactory decisions will be taken.
I think it's impossible. It would be possible only under one condition, that the statute, the publishing and ratification of the statute is the last part of procedures that we are not aware of because they haven't been made public. So perhaps there is already an indictment ready with evidentiary material, because the statute provides for a very complicated and extensive part on cooperation, on gathering of evidence with state parties, organizations, different authorities, and these are provisions that would seem to be, whose goal is to, to suck in the materials gathered that are already somewhere gathered, analyzed, and ready to be presented in court. So that's one condition. The second condition, maybe there are already judges chosen that we know nothing about, so they will be like this chosen, and the tribunal will be established. But we shouldn't be judgmental So the establishment of this tribunal is a great success of European society. It was impossible for the international community, but Europe is not divided, Europe is united in this area, and this special tribunal, because of its existence, is the first success. So and international justice is patient. So the judgments don't have to happen next day. The problem is the society and people who lose interest very quickly, like golden fish. Like blink and their patience and attention is gone. I blame social media. But we have seen how much time it took with the ICC to be operational and to bring first judgments. So we can have a lot of hopes for this new tribunal, but we should be patient. Because the statute is also very complicated. So there will be a lot of interpretational problems, a lot of problems with functioning. Even there is no one defined language of this tribunal, because for every trial, judges can choose another language. For presentation of evidence, judges can choose other language. So the main language being English, it's not
Yeah, it's actually really nice answer, because we need to be thankful that the procedure is started, that all the needed documents are ratified, and it's continuous process. So yeah, I will ask our audience if you have any question. If not, I will continue with my questions. But I really hope that you have some.
My name is Valentin. I'm a legal analyst at Center for Civil Liberties, and I would like you to clarify a little bit about, you mentioned in your speech that universal jurisdiction is very important for international society, and all the war crimes and crimes against humanity. It's not only crimes against Ukraine, but against whole security of the world, and it's also crimes against, as a result, against Polish security, yes? And this is all very well known for the international society, in international public law, but in some cases, domestic legal systems don't fully recognize the universal jurisdiction principle. And I think you mentioned the principle of productivity, which was the main core to start the case in Poland. And I would like to clarify whether some direct enshrined of this principle in the Polish legislation, criminal procedural legislation, and whether there are some other challenges, criminal procedural challenges, maybe constitutional challenges to run the case like this. Thank you.
So that's for me, and I have a slide for that. No, it's not moving. So I don't have a slide for that. Universal jurisdiction is not an academic problem only. It's not theory of law only, because how it started, how the history of activating universal jurisdiction in the present years started. It started with victims coming to the police saying that their perpetrator is living next door on the next street, and the victims said, we need justice for these crimes. But the crimes were committed in Syria or Somalia, because both victims and perpetrators were immigrants. But it led to a situation where in one state, in European states, the gravest criminals lived peacefully as normal citizens, not citizens, but as normal people together with their victims. So universal jurisdiction is necessary for the victims, for people, not for the states only. And in Poland, we haven't had a single case based on universal jurisdiction so far. So the decision I showed you in the slide is the first one, and it started in Belarus. It's a case of Belarusian functionaries, state functionaries, committing crimes against humanity in Belarus against Belarusian citizens. And the prosecutor refused to initiate an investigation, saying that Poland has no jurisdiction. But the victims appealed to the court, and the court decided that Poland has jurisdiction, because the provision of the criminal code, the Polish criminal code, provides for unconditional universal jurisdiction. So now the case is back with the prosecutors. We don't know what happens next. But at the same time, because of this provision that is unclear, because it says that, well, never mind. We are not here analyzing legal provisions. Anyway, it's not clear. You have to trust me on that. And it's hard to issue arrest warrants basing on a provision that's not clear. So that's why we are cooperating with the Codification Commission, and unconditional universal jurisdiction will be possible in Poland. But we want to have them organized in one unit, so only specialized prosecutors should conduct such cases, and we have a lot of successes, a lot of failures on the path towards effective universal jurisdiction. One of the successes is that this year, like last month, the training of prosecutors into international criminal law was made part of the prosecutors' education, prosecutors and judges. So there is a specific subject in the school for judges and prosecutors, and we will be teaching prosecutors, both new prosecutors and old prosecutors and judges, this topic for the first time in the history. Maybe not the first time, but on a regular basis. So they will be aware of the necessity to investigate such cases and about the specificity of such cases. And I totally agree with you, Vasily, right? Valentin, I'm sorry. That it's a huge thing right now, universal jurisdiction, because states are aware of the fact, and people should be aware of the fact that if international order is based on certain principles, all the states should be guardians of these principles, not just the ICC. It's very important. We will be speaking about it tomorrow, but it doesn't have the capacity, the funds, the hands to work on all the cases. So it's our job to prosecute these crimes. Did I answer all your questions? Because there were a lot of issues that you mentioned.
If I may, yeah. I have two questions. One of them about ICC potential case, and second one about Council of Europe and their work with International Damages List register. I'm started from Council of Europe. As you know, we have international register of damages only from 2022, and arguments of this was about that agreement was only about some damages after 2022, because we have international recognition of international war, international armed conflict here at the territory of Ukraine. But as you know, we have 1 million people who are suffering from the result of affected by this war from 2014. How you think is it possible to launch it, make again full covering of all the people who affected this war from 2014 at this register, and is it possible that Poland can have a leadership in that? Because we know that it's in these months it can be this commission open. So is it? And we now have a decision about Russian-Ukrainian case at European Court of Human Rights. So how you think? Is it possible, and can Poland be one of leader propositors, initiators of these changes? That first, and second one about ICC. Are you see any perspective of case about genocide Russian against the Ukraine at ICC or not? Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe I will start and then we will continue. Regarding the first question, I can say that there is an understanding in Poland that the war started in 2014. And believe me that during every discussion, from the very first moment of the so-called full-scale invasion, Poles used to write, and we write in every article, books, and we raised this question in every discussion. Sometimes we struggle with our colleagues from Western European countries about words. For example, we have published the book, we contributed both to the book about Russia's crimes, and the publishing house didn't let us to use the word war in the title and changed it into the conflict. So I believe that Poland understands the situation, could be a leader, and probably in UN resolutions, this aggression, Russian aggression, was like confirmed with the date 24 February, right, 2022. That's why maybe, but I'm not sure. I really don't know. I have to be honest. Why this register started with this date? Probably because of some confirmation and political agreement. Because it's obvious for us that violations of human rights and international humanitarian law, of course, started much earlier. And the question of genocide and ICC, right now, I'm not sure if ICC will identify crimes committed in Ukraine as a genocide, to be honest. And especially the case of children, forced transfers of Ukrainian children to Russia was named as war crimes. And many, in academic discussion, when we identify genocidal acts, I noticed that many lawyers refer to the question of children, but ICC didn't recognize it at this level, so I'm not sure if, next decisions we can expect something like this, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and the book, that was really painful. We got the reviews because it's obligatory to get a review. And the reviews said, but you shouldn't concentrate on Russian crimes. And we thought, what? But the title is Russia's aggression. So that was criticism towards all our articles, that we are focusing on one perspective only, and as academics we should be impartial. So we responded, yes, we are being impartial by concentrating on Russian crimes. Yes, well, who committed the crime of aggression is quite clear, and the other crimes, there is even a theory that we can use the name of mother crime for the crime of aggression, because all other crimes are the result of this first crime that started the conflict, yes, the war. But we agreed with other authors that we are not changing. We responded to the reviewers, but we didn't change the content of the articles, right?
Yes, I can add that the title of my article was Russia's crimes as a tool of war, so I was very strict about it.
Yes, and my title was Documentation of Russian Crimes. So we would be very happy if Poland took leadership in supporting Ukraine because of our links and our close relationships, and because of the fact that we live not even in separate countries. In my children's school, like in my son's class, 10 girls are from Ukraine, so most of the girls, because 4 of them are Polish. So we live together. It's our common goal. We live in one society. So for me, it's very important that we support each other, that we support Ukraine. And as for the register for damages, there is a Polish representative. Our friend is there. I hope she supports also this initiative. But we have to say that the institutional framework is a result of negotiations and political influences. So the most important thing is to document crimes. And I know that crimes are being documented from 2014. And if we have materials, if you have witnesses, if we have documentation of all the damages that have been done, it's possible to widen the scope of the register. It's just a political decision, and then we can widen the scope. We can use other mechanisms. The ICC also issues orders concerning damages. Damages can be also considered in other proceedings. So as long as there is political will and documentation, we can use either this mechanism or other. And the last question, the ICC and the genocide. The ICC is very reluctant to use this legal qualification. Maybe because it's a crime of crimes, as the title of a book by William Shabas. Maybe because of the fact that Western scholars don't understand genocide in our Eastern European meaning. I spoke about it last year, that Eastern Europeans are used to other type of genocide than them in the West. And in the beginning, you wouldn't believe why the wider definition wasn't adopted in 1948. Why cultural genocide wasn't considered to be in the scope of the crime of genocide. Because states didn't want to interfere with internal affairs of other states, because it was in the colonial age and they didn't want to interfere with other colonial powers. So I think it is very important that special teams in Ukraine are gathering evidence of genocidal intent, because there is a lot of material on genocidal intent. I think it's very important that Ukrainians are also pushing forward this idea that it should be considered and qualified as genocide. Because we need this conviction, we need support in here, and Polish scholars are also promoting this idea that the scope of genocide should be wider, the definition should be wider. That's first area of lobbying. The second is that crimes committed against Ukrainian children and against Ukrainian nation can be qualified as genocide. So in my opinion, yes.
Yeah. I wanted to ask I think the last question, because we have like 5 to 10 minutes. My question is, it will be like double one, because I'm going to ask about the current status of cooperation between Poland and Ukraine in the sphere of investigation. You mentioned the joint investigation team, and I just wanted to ask how the things are going. Maybe you can explain in more practical way how the cooperation is going. And also the second part of the question is it's probably the same question, but in terms of NGOs. So how does Ukrainian NGOs contribute to to this type of cooperation? Does Polish NGOs, for example, those who are in the sphere of documenting war crimes, are contributing to the, like in this sphere? Maybe the cooperation in the shared information are going, or something like that. So if you could contribute to this, it would be nice. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for this question. But could I get my presentation back? How can I get to this presentation?
У нас можна повернути. О, супер. Дякую вам велике.
Thank you, yes. So, yes, it was on the slides because that's one of the specific issues that can be discussed. So cooperation is most efficient in the scope of GIT, with so many states cooperating. But what is most important is, here you have the slides, the facts on the GIT. But what is most important is that it allows for free flow of evidence. So if one state gathers evidence, it can be downloaded to this special digital database and then used in other states, theoretically, to prosecute certain persons. But not only, this is not the only possibility. The agreement on GIT allows to transfer evidence from one state to other without the need to use MLA, so mutual legal assistance instruments. So this way, it's much easier to prosecute certain person because you can ask other states if they have materials against this person, or maybe you have one witness who speaks about one incident or one infiltration camp, and then you can gather all the evidence that other states have concerning this one infiltration camp. Then leaders, the leaders of this operation, of this center, can emerge, and then you can gather more evidence on the specific persons. So you can build up your prosecution case basing on evidence that can be gathered, that was gathered by other states. That theory, as I'm aware, it's much more complicated, it seems, but we have the network for that. Maybe it will be more efficient. For me, the most important part is that prosecutors can meet on during common meetings, and they can discuss problems. And from what we've heard during these last years of investigations, the most efficient way of cooperation is personal meetings, personal cooperation in genocide network, and annual meetings of GIT prosecutors, because then they can discuss the cases, they can discuss the level of advancement of the cases. So that's as much as I can share. And when it comes to NGOs, it's also very interesting because NGOs in Poland are coordinated and they have very close cooperation with the prosecutor's office. And that's the first case when NGOs are committed to help the prosecutors so much. So we have so far five Polish NGOs documenting crimes committed in Ukraine, and they all formed a coalition, so they are coordinated in one entity. They have LinkedIn page, they have coordination meetings, and they applied for funding together because they complement each other. And they also have a lot of lobbying, so meetings with ministers, ambassadors. It's still going on, the lobbying procedure, because we are looking, I'm helping as an expert. So that's why I use we. So we are trying to find support to make it happen, so that the arrest warrants are issued by Poland. And when I say that they complement each other, Opora in Poland is a Ukrainian NGO working in Poland, and they have the biggest influence, the biggest impact. They interviewed the most witnesses, and they cooperate with secret services of Poland. They so they interviewed 2,000 witnesses brought by Opora. The prosecutors interviewed and secret services. Then Lemkin Center also interviews witnesses here in Ukraine, in the occupied area also, sometimes in the most endangered places, and they prepare reports. They prepared 3 reports. They publish it. They make it very not popular, but they make it well known. So everybody in Poland knows these reports. There is always an information when you try to download the report that all the content is over 18 years old. So you need to be an adult to access the report, because they are very depressing also. And they are published in 3 languages. Polish Center for Torture Survivors provides for psychologs and psychological trainings, traumatologist trainings. Helsinki Foundation for Human Rights also publishes reports and interviews witnesses, but this part is over right now, so they just publish reports. And the Sunflowers Project provides for a digital platform where everybody can provide their own statements, and then on the basis of these statements, the prosecutors can interview witnesses. So NGOs work very closely with the prosecutor's office for the first time in history. So far, that NGOs provide for psychologs for prosecutors' interviews. If witnesses are vulnerable, then these are NGOs who provide psychologs for this. And also they provide sometimes premises, safe premises, because the prosecutor's office is well guarded with automatic weapon, and some witnesses are so traumatized that they shouldn't go to such a building, military building, like military-looking building. So I hope the coalition will be successful in pressing for actual prosecution. So keep your fingers crossed for our lobbying.
Thank you so much for the overview, because on one slide we have everybody that are into this big initiative. So it's really important. I know a lot of these initiatives myself, but it's really important for the audience to understand the scope of Polish initiatives. And for today, I think that we ran out of our time already, but it was really big pleasure to host you today, and I also waiting for your contribution for the next day, tomorrow, and many other opportunities in the future. Thanks a lot for coming to Kyiv, and it's a big pleasure to be with you, to speak with you, to host this Q&A. Thank you very much.